Hello, welcome back to the Sports Vault. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob rolling along, and we have come to our big segment. We're doing NCAA athletes' right to unionize. This was a major story this week. Wednesday, the National Labor Relations Board ruled that Northwestern football players do qualify as employees and are eligible to join the College Athletes Player Association. And this was just wow. This would change the dynamic of college athletics, and it's just a lot of people think that these college athletes are being exploited, and in some cases I think that this is the NCAA. The NCAA is no one to blame but themselves for this failing, because they've failed to bring meaningful reforms for years, and they've just desperately needed them. But I think there's also a misconception that all schools are like Texas, making millions of dollars. And the big thing about a school like Texas is, yes, their football program, their basketball program, the money they make is unbelievable, but that money usually pays for the other programs. The big problem with this is, if this court case probably will go to the Supreme Court. So there's no, it's not for sure that it will be 100% certain, but if this did come true, it's just there's so many problems that come up. How do you determine who gets paid and who doesn't get paid? I mean, if this does come true, you can't just pay the star football players, the star basketball players. You've got to pay the people on the boxing, on the swimming team. Everybody is going to be entitled to some of it, and universities just aren't going to have the kind of money to pay for this kind of thing. And academically, it's kind of, we saw the other day, if you go on our Twitter, at SportsVaultIona, we put up the story of the North Carolina academic scandal, and you just see that at North Carolina, there was a special class that students would go in. They hand in one assignment. They don't even put in a lot of work, and they get an A for the class. And if you think that's only happened at North Carolina, you're dead wrong, because that kind of thing is happening everywhere. And it brings up the question, if are college institutions for academics, or are they for sports? And it makes you raise your eye, because if this comes true and these athletes should be played and they're not putting in the academic work, I just don't see it. So there's so many problems that come up with this, but Rob, give us your opinions.
In a way, I do like this for the players, because you know what, they should get paid. Some big time schools, because how much, Joe, do they make off selling a ticket? Like schools like Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, when they had the rival games, how much are they making off tickets? And the players don't see that. The players that give out autographs, and then their autographs are sold. And then the thing is, I don't like it also because it comes to with the grades, just like you just said. A lot of these kids, they're going to school for free, and they don't go to class whatsoever. And I think if they're to get paid, they need to show up to a lot of their classes, and there has to be a GPA set of, you have to hit this GPA requirement. You want to get paid, you have to have this GPA requirement. And that's just how I strongly feel about it. But this is not going to work. This definitely will not work, because there are small-time schools that do not make a lot of money, and they're not going to be able to afford for all these players on all these teams.
Good points. I mean, we're going to be talking a lot about it. I'm sure as we move on from this process, this is going to be a major news story for a long time to come. So we're going to definitely be revisiting that story, but that's just our preliminary thoughts on it. And we're moving into our NBA, and there's a lot of NBA to talk about. The first thing is, what is wrong with the Miami Heat? I don't think it's a secret. I make it widely known that I'm maybe the biggest Miami Heat fan at Iona College, and they have me very worried. 11-8 since the All-Star break, and I've come to the realization I just don't think this team has enough to win the championship this year. When you watch the team, they're just missing something, and I think when you look at them, the depth is just not where it needs to be. Obviously, Dwayne Wade being in and out of the lineup so much this year has really just made him inconsistent, and I think it's really hurt more than it could. I mean, he will be healthy around playoff time, but you just got to think to yourself, did missing all those games maybe make something happen there? Ray Allen has been hit and miss. Greg Oden can't play. I mean, when you look at Greg Oden, Eric Spoelstra's only playing him the first 6 minutes and the first 6 minutes after halftime. If he can't play any more than that, I mean, you couldn't have expected much out of him, but he's not going to help as much as you hoped. Mario Chalmers has been here and there. Norris Cole has a really disappointing year for me. I thought he was really, you could see the evolution in his game. He was definitely getting there, improving, but he's had a really bad year, Norris Cole. Michael Beasley's been hit and miss. He's been good here, but overall, I think he's been very inconsistent. Udonis Haslam's fallen out of the rotation completely. I mean, he played for the first time in weeks the other day. Rashard Lewis, he gives you what he gives you. You can't expect much out of the rest of the guys, but I just think when you look at this roster as a whole, there's just not enough talent there to win the championship. The thing that he have going for them is if they don't have to expend a lot of energy in the Eastern Conference playoffs, they could save it all for the Indiana Pacers. Who knows what's going to happen, but against a team like the West, in the West, like the Thunder, the Clippers, so many good teams, I just don't think Miami's going to win the championship this year, Rob.
Yeah, here's the thing, Joe. Straight from what you just said about every player, there's the main point I'm going to say about it. LeBron cannot do it all.
No.
LeBron, hands down, cannot do this all by himself. You know what? Bosch does chime in once in a while, but it's all LeBron James leading this team. Nobody is backing him up whatsoever. Dwayne Wade, Joe, this is the time, Joe, that we've always been talking about how Wade's coming towards the end of his career. His knees are done, Joe. I'm sorry, his knees are done. The playoffs, I don't think he's going to be that great come playoff time. You know what? He is resting, but I think he'll be shut down. And this is coming to the point for the Miami Heat. Size is the matter. They signed Greg Oden. You know Greg Oden hasn't been good. You know his knees are bad. So that was pretty much a bad signing because you know what? They're missing a big piece in height, Joe, whatsoever. Chris Anderson is the biggest man on that team. There's no height whatsoever for this team. And as I said, LeBron's doing this all by himself. And this is the reason why I think, Joe, LeBron might opt out of his contract this offseason.
Ooh, I wouldn't go that far, Big Shot. Well, he's going to opt out, but I think he will be back in Miami. Do you think he'll be back in Miami?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think?
No.
Wow. Revelations on this show. Big Shot, Rob, where is he going?
I don't know, Joe. We were talking the other day, and you told me Cleveland has a better roster than what they did when LeBron was there. So
True.
That could be a true destination. The Knicks, maybe, if he does stick with Miami for another year, he could come to New York. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
No.
But I for some reason that he's going to go back there and just win it with the young Kyrie Irving. At least give Cleveland something. I mean, you start give the fans something at least. Give them a championship.
Here's the thing. At the beginning of the season, I would have told you I think he would be extremely tempted to go back to Cleveland because he's not happy with the way things left off. But Dan Gilbert, the way things have gone this season, I just can't see it. Apparently the Cavaliers have a plan where they're going to try to get Kevin Love and LaMarcus Aldridge and team them up with LeBron, but who knows what's going to happen. I think he will be back in Miami. Like I said, there's a lot of NBA that's going to be coming more and more. This is just a little thing here, but we will get back to this. The next story I want to address in the NBA is Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, after Jackson reassigned assistant Brian Scalabrine, there were reports of disunity within his coaching staff. Apparently, there could have been a rift between him and now Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Malone. They're currently the 6th seed at 44 and 27 in the West. And the big thing I look at for this team is they're 23 and 12 at home. And Oracle Arena, which is where they play, is one of the best home court advantages in the NBA. And the Warriors, the 23 and 12 mark at home is a little disturbing to me. Now they have played very well on the road as well. I believe they're 23 and 15 on the road, which is very good. But Mark Jackson, his players love him. I mean, look, Stephen Curry's advocated for him. The players in practice, have shootout contests with him. The players love Mark Jackson. It's the owner, Joe Lacob, and I don't think that he's the biggest Mark Jackson fan. He voices displeasure at times. I think the thing that's going to have to keep him here is he's got to at least get past the first round in the playoffs. I think that there's no way that Mark Jackson shouldn't be the coach of this team. He resurrected this Warriors franchise, which has been bad for so long. Finally, they're a competitor team again. So I think he's got to get past the first round, though, and I don't think he should go anywhere.
Yeah, Joe, as you said, he does have to win this first round. And one thing for the downfall for this team, I know they did, by letting go of Jarrett Jack off season, they were able to get Andre Iguodala, which was a great pickup. But Andre Iguodala, he hasn't impressed me whatsoever with this Warriors team. And I think they should have kept Jarrett Jack, who was an explosive point guard. And I have this feeling it's not really Mark Jackson's fault whatsoever, Joe. It's what you're given to work with. That's what's hard. him. He really doesn't have that many options. After his starting five, Joe, what really is out there? Jermaine O'Neal, who's old and a little bit washed up. And the main thing that he has to do, Steph, with his team is he has to work with turnovers. That's one big problem I see. Steph Curry is a point guard that has way too many turnovers in games, and I think Mark Jackson needs to improve with that. But I think if he's able to finish the season strong and win the first round of the playoffs, he will be able to retain his job. However, if that isn't happening, he will be out. We'll have to find a new job somewhere.
Completely agree. I mean, the second Jarrett Jack left that team in the offseason, I knew how big a loss that was going to be because he was the perfect transition guy to go from Stephen Curry to Jarrett Jack. It was a perfect transition there, and you've seen how big a loss that's been for the Warriors. Jarrett Jack hasn't been phenomenal with Cleveland, but I think it was a perfect combination right there. The last story for the NBA is Adam Silver. Earlier this week, he made comments that he was kind of advocating for 2 years in college and kind of going back to our original thoughts about the one and done and how that's changing the dynamic of college basketball. I think it's a great thing. I think college basketball would be a better product if the players stayed 2 years. Why is college football so great? Well, because the schools get to hold on to their players a long time. You build good teams like the Alabamas. You get the Oklahomas, the Oklahoma States. So many, it's just so great. And then you see the guys go to the NFL and they're ready. But in the NBA, you have guys like Anthony Bennett. They're just not ready. We have a very talented draft class this year. But guys like Andrew Wiggins, they aren't ready for the NBA leap. And I think you see that impact on the current top programs, and it's making the product of college basketball less desirable to watch. And Rob, you think the same thing, don't you?
Yeah, I think it should be 2 years, Joe. I'm looking back right now. Austin Rivers. Now, he was drafted 2 years ago, pick number 10 by the Pelicans. What is he well known for, Joe? That one shot versus North Carolina. I'm sorry. He was not spectacular at Duke. And a number 10 pick, he's averaging 6.9 points per game this year, 1.9 assists, and 1.4 rebounds. Kelly Olynyk was picked later in a draft this year and has higher numbers than that. And you know what? It's coming to the point where players like, as you said, Wiggins and Jabari Parker, I'm sorry, games, you better stick another year in college. I'm sorry, they did not impress me. That was embarrassing in the tournament, especially for Andrew Wiggins, 1 for 6, 4 points. Come on. You come into the Big 12, you're crushing people, you're scoring 20 and 30 points a game, and then you have a terrible game like that. Jabari Parker, 4 for 14. Like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? And you're a top 5. You got. You know what? It's not myself. It's about because when you go to NBA, and you know what? That's why it should be 2 years of college basketball.
I think you perfectly nailed it right there. The big last takeaway for me is just the players get more polish and they'll be more NBA ready and the product of college basketball will be better. What more could you want there? So I think the 2-year thing would be great for the game. I think it would make the NBA a better product. I think it would make college basketball a better product. I think it would make the players a better product. It works all ways around there. So that is going to wrap it up for our NBA segment. When we come back for our final segment, we've got some NFL stuff we want to get in here, but that's going to do it for this segment. Join us for our last segment momentarily.